The PlayStation 5 Pro is changing the future of gaming. More specifically, it's changing what a console can be. Mark Cerny recently sat down and did an interview about their plans for the PS5 Pro and their PSSR technology. And while some of this won't make landfall until 2026, it has far-reaching implications. It's going to impact what developers can do with the Pro, but also future generations of the PlayStation console. And even though the PS5 Pro isn't pacing as strong as the PS4 Pro did in the sales department, it's what's on the inside that matters most right now. Back when there was a lot of bluster and criticism about the price and the device's capabilities, I remember cautioning folks from getting ahead of themselves. Mark Cerny seemed to be investing not just in the hardware for the power for the gamers, he was actively seeking to build something that would appeal to developers and change what a console can be. And his latest interview really drives that home. It has a very long view, looking at the horizon of where the Pro can go, but also where the PlayStation 6 could go as well. In other words, we haven't seen the final form of PSSR and what the Pro can do, and it all comes back to PlayStation's relationship with AMD. Now, before we get into what was said and what it means for the future, be sure to hit like and subscribe if at any point in this video you like what you see and you want more content like it. Something I've been encouraging gamers to do since the very first PS5 Pro trailer is to listen to what Mark Cerny says, as opposed to outlets and content creators who seemingly have some sort of an anti-Sony bias. Even in the wake of this interview, multiple outlets have misrepresented what Mark Cerny said. So first, what did he not say? He did not say they are bringing FSR 4 to the Pro. That is probably going to become a pretty quick false headcanon for people who are reading some of these headlines and posts. Second, he did not say that they are replacing PSSR with FSR 4 or some other new technology. I've already seen these false narratives getting traction, in large part due to headlines and posts that worded it to make it seem as though PSSR was not the focus of his remarks. Many people think that PSSR was a failure and this is some sort of a backtrack and they're trying to sort of retrofit FSR into the Pro. That is simply not the case. This is the result of Project Amethyst and the work that is helping both companies. Thankfully, Eurogamer actually got the headline correct in their article titled, "Mark Cerny, FSR 4 for PS5 Pro is the next evolution of PSSR," which is essentially what this is about, the evolution of PSSR, not backporting or putting FSR 4 onto the Pro. Also, he makes it clear, before even getting into the details, that this is some of the first results from their joint venture, Project Amethyst, with AMD. He said the following: "The neural network and training recipe in FSR 4's upscaler are the first results of the Amethyst collaboration, and results are excellent. It is a more advanced approach that can exceed the crispness of PSSR. I'm very proud of the work of the joint team." This is precisely what many of us predicted would come from this. The two-way street would see AMD cards gaining better tech, and that having a direct impact and helping the tech on the PlayStation as well. What I didn't know at the time was that this was going to help evolve PSSR on the Pro that I already have in my house. I assumed this was mainly setting its sights on the PlayStation 6, which is still true. But the journey there will essentially make the PS5 Pro improve with every update. Listen to what Mark says. "Our focus for 2025 is working with developers to integrate PSSR into their titles. In parallel, though, we have already started to implement the new neural network on the PS5 Pro. Our target is to have something very similar to FSR 4's upscaler available on PS5 Pro for 2026 titles and the next evolution of PSSR. It should take the same inputs and produce essentially the same outputs. Doing that implementation is rather ambitious and time-consuming, which is why you haven't already seen this new upscaler on the PS5 Pro." So this is a very nuanced and specific way of talking about it. That's why this is needed. They are evolving and improving PSSR. They're not replacing it. They're not putting FSR 4 on the Pro. They will, as he said, have something very similar to FSR 4, but not FSR 4 itself. And apparently, this ping-pong match of benefiting both AMD and PlayStation, this is the path forward. Cerny said near the end, "FSR 4 and this next evolution of PSSR are a paradigm for our future." And this is significant for consoles for a lot of reasons. This will impact the Pro, it will impact the PlayStation 6, this will impact cross-gen titles between PS5 and PS6, and it brings the PlayStation platform closer to PC in one very important way. So let's break down each of these things. The impact on the PS5 Pro won't be seen until 2026, but the benefit seems both obvious and great for any consumer who decides to buy one. It means that your PlayStation 5 Pro will get better with time without requiring you to really do anything. You don't have to upgrade or buy pieces or parts. This is something that I really tried to drive home when early patches of some of the PSSR implementation was poor. This type of technology gets better with time and updates. And PlayStation and AMD have created a symbiotic relationship where both benefit. AMD cards are getting better versions of FSR, and the PS5 Pro is having its PSSR evolve and improve. And gamers reap the benefits. But more than gamers, this benefits the developers. One of the reasons I said the PS5 Pro would be market disruptive is because early leaks made it clear it was directly targeting things that developers valued and wanted more of. Well, this really changes the game. In times past, the late gen of a console would see games looking and performing better, and it was almost entirely all on the studios to just get better at navigating the hardware and optimizing. This creates an environment where the hardware can be updated and improved, giving the devs more to utilize. This is like a tandem bike, where instead of developers just getting better at riding on the bike on their own, PSSR can jump on the bike and start helping pedal. What we could see here, I think, is games like Housemarque's Saros or Insomniac's Wolverine landing in the back half of this gen, and they could make the PS5 Pro a much more tantalizing offer to those who have not been yet swayed to purchase one. And something the early leaks about the Pro made clear, this tech being developed for it has its sights set on a higher and higher threshold, which almost assuredly is pointing to the PlayStation 6. If there is something that Mark Cerny and the team at PlayStation have made clear, they are invested in the future of the PlayStation console. The PS5 Pro is so much more than a mid-gen refresh. It's almost like a first flight into new territory. And something from the Eurogamer article, Mark Cerny makes it clear they have a long-term goal beyond the PS5 Pro. The longer-term goal is to work together to create a more ideal hardware architecture for machine learning, something capable of processing the neural networks needed for game graphics at high speed. PS5 Pro was a wonderful learning experience for us here at SIE, and of course, AMD has an incredible amount of knowledge from its multi-generation RDNA roadmap. Again, it just makes sense to combine those expertises. This is why the PS5 Pro and PSSR are changing gaming. It's a stepping stone to a larger aim and a goal to process game graphics at a higher speed. This will have a cascade of effects within the industry. It'll influence game dev and actual design of video games, and it's clear that Project Amethyst is looking beyond the Pro and aiming at the PS6. Imagine all the work with AMD and PSSR landing on a stronger console, specifically one with a stronger CPU than the current base PS5 or Pro model. But also consider what this means for the end of every console gen. It means they can always go out with a bang. We should be getting the absolute best versions of games as the hardware becomes better with improvements to things like PSSR. It also means that cross-gen titles should benefit as well. A late-gen title for PS5 and the PS5 Pro should be tapping into the technology that will be on the base PlayStation 6. While some gamers really dislike that period of time where there's cross-gen support as they're trying to get consumers to migrate over, the benefits are so clearly seen. Imagine Ghost of Tsushima 3 leveraging the latest and best version of PSSR on the PS5 Pro, and that having a direct impact on how the game runs on the PlayStation 6 because it's going to be leveraging the same tech but on stronger hardware. And this means that consoles are starting to inch into brand new territory previously only occupied by gaming PCs. Some folks are really going to hate that I'm saying this, but the future for consoles from PlayStation feels a lot more like a PC, and not in the way where you're having to upgrade the GPU or add memory, but in the way of the hardware itself getting direct updates to make games run better. DLSS has done great things for mid-level graphics cards, so this isn't a bad thing, because I know hardcore console fans or hardcore PC fans might scoff at the notion, but this, at some level, is better, because the platform itself is investing in improving itself over time, instead of just leaving it to the devs to get better at using hardware while it remains static and unchanging. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Mark Cerny is fostering a platform that will be very winsome to developers. It's not just giving them more ray tracing or more headroom for better frames per second by having a nice upscaler. It's giving them an environment to build in that will improve and evolve over time, which means we are entering into uncharted territory. And it also means that there's one very welcome conclusion here. The gap is closing. If anything developed by AMD cards and FSR has a direct impact on the power and the capabilities of future PlayStation consoles, I can't see it any other way. The gap is closing. This could also mean future PlayStation games will start running better on AMD cards. They can leverage those future versions of FSR, and it'll be very similar to what's going on with PSSR. Because the relationship between AMD and PlayStation is directly impacting both of these pieces of technology. I see this leading to a bright future. Because right now, a $700 mid-gen refresh console has the ability to have its upscaler improved, updated, and evolved over time. Think of what that could mean for things like ray tracing. Imagine what an entire generation will look like when this is the ground level foundation baked into the base console. So as I said, the PS5 Pro and PSSR are changing gaming, which, as long as you're not writing fan fiction about it and claiming that PSSR has failed, this is definitely something worth celebrating. But those are just my thoughts. I'd love to hear your thoughts. You can leave a comment below. And as always, if you want to catch my live streams and my other uploads, please remember to like, share, and subscribe.